Hi, my name is Antonia Lofranco, and this is my extra credit assignment video for MCB4203 bacterial pathogens. And today I will be talking about the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Okay, so my first slide here is just an overview of the study. So in 1932, the United States Public Health Service Commission Corps started working with the Tuskegee Institute to study the disease syphilis. And so what they did is they recruited 600 Black men who were chosen as the test subjects. 399 of these men had the disease syphilis already, and 201 of them did not. Informed consent was not collected. We'll be talking about more of like what informed consent is later in the video. So in exchange for their participation in the study, the men in the study were given free medical exams and meals, but they were denied treatment for syphilis. So in 1943, this is 10 years after the study has already began, penicillin was widely available to treat the disease. But of course, like I said, these men were not allowed to have access to this treatment. They had to continue the progression of the disease. An Assistant Secretary for Health and Scientific Affairs announced the end of the study in 1973, so many years later, as a result of an advisory board deeming the study ethically unjustified. So as you can see, 10 years later, treatment is available for syphilis. These Black men, 600 of them, have to just not be treated for this disease. And only many decades later, in 1973, was it put to an end. So I wanted to give also an overview of what syphilis is for anyone who's watching this video who might not be studying microbiology. So syphilis is caused by the bacterium Treponema pallidum, and it's a sexually transmitted disease. And it usually follows a progression of stages, which can span from a period of weeks to years, depending on if the patient has access to treatment or not, and how quickly they're able to get treated. So the primary stage of syphilis involves multiple, usually painless canker sores appearing at the site of infection. And if it's left untreated at this point, it'll develop to the secondary stage, which is skin rashes and or mucous membrane lesions. And then also other symptoms are fever, muscle aches, and fatigue. And if it continues to be untreated past this point, which for the men in the study, it absolutely did continue to this point, it'll reach the tertiary stage, which is rare, but like I said, develops as a result of untreated disease. The disease can cause damage to multiple organs, including the brain, which can end in the death of the person. And it occurs 10 to 30 years after the initial infection. So if we go back to the time span of the study, it began in 1932. 10 years later, treatment was available. And then 30 years after that, it was ended. So by this point, 40 years that this was going on, a lot of patients reached this point and ended up dying because of the disease progression. So just for context, in 1933, approximately 1 in 10 Americans was suffering with syphilis, which means it was a pretty big deal at this time. And in 2020, there were about 134,000 new cases of syphilis. And so just the Tuskegee Syphilis Study is only one example of unethical studies that used human test subjects. And after these studies were investigated and deemed unethical, the National Commission for the Protection of Human Subjects in Biomedical and Behavioral Research, they had multiple meetings in which they discussed all of these occurrences, and they wrote this document called the Belmont Report. And what the Belmont Report does is it outlines the basic ethical principles that should underlie the conduct of any biomedical or behavioral research involving human subjects. And there's these 3 basic ethical principles that they break down. It's a very long document, but this is the most important part of it. So one of these principles is respect for persons. This means respect for autonomy, and informed consent is part of the experiment. Personally, a few years ago, I was a human subject in an experiment, and someone from the study met with me, and we went through this very long document that discussed what exactly was expected of me, the risks and benefits of the study, and what they were going to use with my samples and what they were looking for their study, pretty much. And I had to sign and say that I consented to be part of the experiment after being informed of everything that was going to happen. And like we said at the very beginning, informed consent was not collected from the patients in the Tuskegee study. The next principle is beneficence, which means minimizing harm and maximizing benefits. This can be in the form of compensation. For the study I was in, I was paid for my time because they expected me to do multiple sample collections and surveys throughout the week, and it was a 9-week study, so I was paid money for the time that I gave. And justice, which is equal distribution of burdens and benefits. So one group of people isn't going to disproportionately experience a lot more harm, while another group is going to only experience benefits. And so all research involving human subjects must be improved by the Institutional Review Board, which is the IRB for short. And it's on the basis of these principles. You have to get approved by the IRB before you start doing research involving human subjects. So that is all I have for this video today. I hope that if you weren't aware of this before, you were able to learn something new from this video. A lot of my information was from the CDC, and then the information I got from the Belmont report was just from the actual document itself. And all of this will be linked in the description if you'd like to learn and read up more. But thank you for watching, and yeah, I hope that you were able to learn something today. Bye.